Good morning. So today we have Christian, who is a seasoned engineer manager with in-depth experience in mission-critical high transaction volume technologies, leading a team of wonderful engineers. Let's welcome Christian on 10 Minutes of Hiring Wisdom. Hi, Christian. How are you doing today?
Very well. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Of course. So, Christian, can you tell us about your journey? What got you into engineering and just about your overall life?
Sure. So I've always enjoyed mathematics and science in general. Did engineering in school and then moved to the US. I've spent all my career in the US, mostly building products that are meant for enterprise. So either data center product or DevOps and automation products.
Okay, and as in, was it just as in because you were interested in maths and everything? Did you always know that you wanted to build products, or was it something that you were just interested in? Like, what caused you? As in, are you creative? As in, what makes you want to pursue something like this?
So engineering was pretty much the only career I could imagine. I couldn't see myself doing much of anything else, to be frank. But at first, actually, I thought I wanted to do research. I did a PhD. I joined a research lab in California at Hewlett Packard Labs, and that's where being in a research lab but working with a division, I really realized that it was more fun for me, at least, to go build products and be in the action and also have a touch with customers, right? So one of the things that I enjoy and that I think is important for engineers is to really understand how the products that they are used and what the benefit customers do get.
I mean, I think for sure, especially because a lot of companies these days are very customer centric. So you need to make sure that you're always up to date with what your customer wants and how you can make sure that you can fulfill their needs. Because at the end of the day, it's the customers that actually try out your products. So I can definitely see that. So, Christian, where are you currently working? What exactly is your role within that company?
So today I work at a startup. I work in large companies initially. Now this is my fifth startup. And we are a DevSecOps provider. So DevOps is the domain of automating your release process from writing code up to putting that in production. DevSecOps talks about the security aspects of that. So we're offering tools that enable our customers to deploy application security program at scale. A small company, we're a Series A company. We're about 50 people today. Engineering is about half of that group, right? And I run engineering and product management, which I
Okay.
get to work on building the product, and I get to talk to customer and work with customer on finding solutions.
Okay. So you mentioned that you used to work with a lot of big companies and then you've started working with startups. Why the transition? As in, a lot of people usually move from startups to bigger companies, but you took the different route and you decided that you wanted to work from bigger companies than to working with startups. What caused you to change this approach?
I think after a while, you realize that it's as an individual, it's difficult to have a really big impact in a large company unless you are a very senior person in those companies. And often you either get that by having spent a lot of years in various roles or having joined the company early and grown with the company. And I found that by going into startups, one, you get to do many more things. You have to be a little bit of a jack of all trade. You get closer to the action on many front, and you work closer with every other department. I find that more fun, and even the companies I work for have been acquired by larger entities, and after a while, the bug of being in a smaller environment just takes over.
Okay, so as in you decided to pursue something where you could make an impact. And I can definitely see that because I think higher companies already have established structures with a structure of hierarchy that exists. And usually I can definitely see why you said that you need to be at a higher position in order to make an impact. And with usually startups, there's usually a flat structure. So I think you can easily communicate what you want and you can wear different hats and lead a team. So you're leading an engineering team and a product team together. And I think one thing that I'd like to know from your perspective is if someone would like to like pursue a career in engineering or product development, what is something according to you that would make them successful in that particular field?
So there are a few things I would say. One, certainly is to understand where the action is, what the trends are in a specific domain, right? And in my career, I've seen really, I don't want to date myself, but when I was in C and C++ were hot languages, now they are pretty much relegated to second class citizen in computer science. And you have had a major change between the type of product that were built even 5 years ago that were larger, big application, typically deployed in the data center of a company. And now the trend is really towards cloud-based software as a service. So for engineers, you have to learn new design techniques. You have to learn new languages. So however senior you are, you could be, a senior architect. You could have built many products. It's always important to sharpen the saw, right? To stay current, learn those new paradigm, understand how the industry is changing, because it keeps you relevant from that standpoint. So always,
That's very true.
yeah, always, look where the industry is going and what the new trends are. You don't necessarily want to jump on each and every one of those, right? But you want to understand enough so that they become important. And then,
That's very true.
as we look taking the role more on the hiring side, right? We always look for candidates who will differentiate themselves. And the best way to do that, one is your network, right? So if I have an open position and somebody I know, I respect, or somebody in my team today comes and says, "Hey, I know XYZ," and that person is interested in joining the company, there's certainly a preference towards that. And the reason is you will have a deeper insight into the candidate because somebody has worked with them before, and that's very important versus what you're going to get from just a conversation nowadays in Zoom or for at most an hour or two, and you have to make an impression on that.
Yeah. I can definitely see connections playing a very important role, especially because I think that trust factor is very important because you don't want to hire someone at the end of the day who doesn't fit in your organization. So there goes a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of resources gone into hiring a person that was essentially wrong. So thank you for sharing that, Christian. So Christian, are you hiring are you looking for specific roles, and how do you think the pandemic has changed the way you hire within your company?
So to the first part of your question, we're not hiring right now. We just actually finished our current hiring round. We added a team to our organization, and so we looked for a number of things that were difficult to find just because the talent is scarce, right? So finding good people who know microservice-based architecture, who knows how to build good, appealing front end system, and then hiring DevOps people is particularly difficult nowadays. So these were the skills we were looking for, and at this point we've completed that. But there'll always be a point where we might we engage and look for new roles. How the pandemic has changed hiring, I would say in my experience, and during the course of the pandemic, I actually was with two different companies, and one through an acquisition during the pandemic. So technically, you could say three different companies. Um, Not a whole lot, in the sense that, well, you still interview people, you do that over Zoom, but you hold every conversation over Zoom nowadays. So there's an aspect where the non-verbal cues are lacking a little bit. It's a little harder to assess how the personality of someone. Uh,
Yeah.
but I would say that I did for a specific role. I was interviewing three people back to back, and still with Zoom, you can see how the different personality emerge. You can see who is very energetic and has done the homework on the company. You can see who took that a little less seriously, and that certainly impacts your decision. I think the biggest impact that I've felt myself, but people I've hired over the past few months have felt, is onboarding into a new role is a lot harder because yes, you can
Yeah,
read a lot of documentation, you can talk to a lot of people, but you now have to book time versus just walk over to the next desk and just ask your question or grab a conference room and grab a whiteboard and do some drawing. That's a lot easier when you start and you want to understand a complex product.
that makes sense. That makes sense. So I think the pandemic, as in like definitely there's a lot of pros and cons associated with the new type of hiring and how it has changed the way a lot of companies operate. So thank you for sharing that, Christian. That's definitely very insightful. So Christian, our time is up. It was a pleasure having you and learning from you. If your hiring does open in the future, if people do reach out to me with interest regarding applying with your company, I will definitely forward them to you. Thank you for coming on as a guest. It was really fun having you as a guest.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
You too.